Okay, ready? Okay. Just a note or two on mitzvah pei daled. Mitzvah mitzvah pei hey, I'll come back to. I just wanted to brush it up a little bit. And just a note or two on pei daled, okay? The mitzvah of Aseh to be ma'ila and korbanos based באכילה. The Rambam, just to get the thing a little more, to get clearer, remember that the Rambam talks, this is the most important part. The Rambam brings the Sefer, and the gist of the Sefer is basically about a Aseh, and a priori is a little bit odd, to say the least. The Rambam should have a discussion about a Aseh in the middle of a mitzvah Aseh. So the truth is, there is a line that I probably can't explain, but it's a second. Yeah. Pei daled, okay. ובעבור שרוצו להעמיד או הזהורה מהקריב שום קורבן מכל הקורבנות בחוץ, okay, that they, in other words, the discussion, the Ram opens up the discussion about halos chutz lelav, but what he's doing is explaining the gist of the Sefer, but the interest over here, it's a double portion. It's nothing to do with the issue of the lav. We're interested in the Aseh. He shetzivo lahakiv kol korbanos lebeis bechira levat. Shvuhu amar yisrael v'shom taaseh kol asher anochi mitzaveko. Okay, that I think is clear. Okay, it's a little odd the way he sets it up, but he's just being honest what the gist of the Sefer is. But from his point of view, the issue is about the Aseh, and I'll explain to you what that is. Okay. There is a pasuk in the Torah. See, the question is, what's Ram bothered by? There's a pasuk in the pasuk, Shom Tala Olesecho. So there certainly is a mitzvah Aseh. So, he's working so hard that the mitzvah Aseh should include not only oilers, but all korbanos. But when you look, and even if you'd want to suggest that, which I can't say I'd want to buy into, I would ask the following question. What's the lashon in the Rambam at the end of the mitzvah that it's a mitzvah say gemura? Right? So it means without the whole shtickle Torah in the Sefer, it's not gemura. Okay? I did my search, okay? I'm not sure, it's a translation of the Arabic. I didn't check in the Arabic itself, but the gemura, this is the only time in Sefer Mitzvahs that such an expression is used. So what's if I would have walked into Shiur, my Rebbe, and said this is a mitzvah say gemura, or it's not a gemura. See, we looked at me like I fell in. So what does the Rambam want? What does the Rambam want? So you understand the issues, okay? The beginning of the point, let's read the point. Ki im b'mokom asher yivcha Hashem bi'achat shvotecha shom tale oileisecha. So shom tase v'shom tase kol asher anochi mitzaveka is an extension of that. So what I mean, what does the Ram have to come on to the Sefer? Maybe he just should have quoted the pasuk. So the pasuk says, "L'chera v'sham taseh kol asher anochi mitzaveka." So he would have said it's everything to do with oilos, and not other korbanos. But he needs the Sifri to tell us that Shom Ta'aseh Kol Asher Anochi Mitzaveko is referring to all korbanos, and it's a mitzvah mifnei atzmoi, and it's not referring only to oilos. The Sifri happens to tell you that not only is the Aseh, the Aseh is not limited to the double negative. The Aseh is not limited to oilos, and also the Lois Aseh is not limited to oilos. The gist of what the Sifri is talking about is about the lav. But what's important for us is that Aseh for everything, for not only oilos but all korbanos. So the question is, so what's the point? So good. So now I tell you, so we understand that the Aseh is not only on oilos and all korbanos. But what difference it make? It's an Aseh no matter how it does. It's an Aseh gemura. It's an Aseh under all circumstances. The only question is what is the what's the purview of the Aseh? Correct? So I want to say the following, Rabbi say. According to Shiur Beis, okay, there's the Ma'aser Chatos and the Ma'aser Ila and the Ma'aser Oshom and the Ma'aser Shlomim. And everything which includes in any mitzvah which nogeya to each one of these is not a separate mitzvah, but it's part of this. You break this broad category of Ma'aser Chatos, Ma'aser Ila, Ma'aser Oshom, and Ma'aser Shlomim. Correct? And even if the dinim are not in the parsha of Oila, it is also part of the Ma'aser Oila. V'aya, if you look at Shiur Beis, the Ram quotes Nesachim as part of the mitzvah's Oila and not a separate mitzvah. So the same way that Nesachim is part of the mitzvah's Oila and not a separate mitzvah, the din of Shom Ta'ale Oilosecha, or Psadin in the Korban Oila that should be in Beis HaBechira, that also would not been a mitzvah minion. It would have been a tzivoy, but a mitzvah she'eino gemura, part of the brick called Ma'aser Oila. But the Ram says name. Once we say, as the Ram says in Shiur Beis, that mitzvahs which are not peculiarly in one of these categories or two of these categories, but basically we apply to all korbanos, they are separate mitzvahs and not part of the Ma'aser, not part of the Ma'aser Chatos. And he says the mitzvah of Tomim, the mitzvah of Mechusas Man, the mitzvah of Melicha, and the lav of Melicha. And he talks of the mitzvah Melicha, and also they talk about mitzvah Achila of korbanos. See, here also you could have put the mitzvah of Shom Ta'ale Kol Asher Anochi Mitzaveka, and that makes it a mitzvah say gemura, not part of the Ma'aser Oila, but it's separate mitzvah in minyan mitzvahs. That is what I would tell you over here in this line of mitzvah say gemura. Okay, and that's where the Ram is working so hard, and that's the Sifri that Kol Asher Anochi Mitzaveka is not a drosha; it's matiki shmua. The Kol Asher Anochi Mitzaveka is all other korbanos. That's one. And therefore the Rambam stops over here and stops Talmuloima V'shom Ta'aseh, because the author of the Shom Ta'aseh only till here is Negeya, because you can go the rest of it he'll quote in the Mitzvah Beites to prove that there's a lot of followers oilos. But as far as the Aseh, this is enough. To say there's a lot of chutz l'azorah, but the Aseh of all kabbalah should be in the Azorah and the base of Bechira. It's enough to stop here, and that's to prove that Shom Taseh, that's the mitzvah. So that, I think, I just wanted to add, and I think it gives a certain sense of clarity to what we were talking about before. That is point number one. Okay, next. Now, mitzvah pevov. HaMitzvah hashesh ushmonim. He shetzivonu liftois ma shenischadesh boimum. Ma shenischadesh boimum. Min hakotshim v'yetzei l'chulin. For Omo Yis'ale v'hu v'yie muto l'shchoit oisai u'l'ochloi. The Tzupidyon is chala heter of shchita and achila. V'omo Yis'ale rak b'chol avas nafshecho tizbach ואכלת boso k'birkas Hashem Elokecho. Now, here is, okay, so that's what he has. This, frankly, is amazing, okay? And I'll tell you why. I don't know. Let's you know. You look at the pasuk, I don't know, Chaisnet. Rak b'chol avas. Rak b'chol avas nafshecho tizbach ואכלת boso k'birkas Hashem Elokecho. So the Sefer is talking about that you're allowed to eat as you see free, or allowed as much as you mis'avelecho, that you can eat boso k'birkas Hashem Elokecho. Okay, there's no mention by Psul Mukdashim. There's no mention about Peter, no mention about anything. Okay. Let's just get over, go through it slowly. Voloshin Sifri. Rak b'chol avas nafshecho tizbach. Sheino medber ela psul mukdashim shifdo. Okay, good. So Kilu, the Sifri says, we're talking about psul mukdashim. Shifdo, I don't know what does it mean. It means that they should be nifter, or that they do require opinion. I'm not sure, what does it say? Okay, so I'll have to come back to that also. But the Sifri says they're talking about Psul Mukdashim. Ukfa his boy dine mitzvazo, kloima pidyon kochim, miseches tmura, b'choyres u'tmura, u'bekam mekloimais, b'chulin, be'erochim, u'me'ila. But the equal place is b'choyres and tmura. Okay, beside that. Okay, let's now go slowly. So the pasuk of the mitzvah, the makor and the mitzvah in Torah Shebiksav, is rak b'chol avas nafshecho תזבח ואכלת בוסו כברכת השם אלוקיך שאינו לך. בכל שעריך. So it's b'chol sharecha. So l'cheira, there's no mitzvah over here. The pshuta shemikla has nothing to do with psul mukdashim. The mitzvah is true that it's learned from the Sefer that Ram quotes Rak b'chol avos nafshech tizbach ma'akos medber. So let's read the Sefer. The Sefer goes like this. Rak b'chol avos nafshech tizbach ואכלת במעקוס מדבר אם בבוסר טייבה כבר הומו. It's a question of what the pasuk is talking about. Is it talking about Poshet Techul and Bosa Taiva? It's already discussed. V'im ba'achilas kdשים kvar homo. Right? She'eino מדבר el psul mukdashim שיפדו. Okay? So, Bekitza is the process of elimination. It can't be Chulin, because Chulin is already mentioned. And I guess the assumption is the Torah sometimes is Nichpal, the Chumrah, but the assumption is in the same parsha, you wouldn't do such a thing. There's no reason. It's only another place the Torah goes over and over again. But the same parsha, it wouldn't do again, or something like that. Or you assume by definition, by the rule of thumb is that you assume it's talking about a different case unless you have no other option or something like that. Whatever you like, but it seems to be the possible elimination looking at it. Okay. It is true that the Rambam learns from, in many places, from those interpretations we find in the Sefer, that these psukim, the psukim in many different places, represent mitzvahs, even though we wouldn't have had a clue without the Sefer. The Sefer, and the assumption is that the Sefer in general tells us a pirush makubal from the Matiki Ashmua, and that Ki'ilu is a Kabbalah on the pasuk, and even according to Sherish Beis, Sherish Sheni, that drashas are not minyan mitzvahs, pirush makubal is not a drasha, and it's a minyan mitzvahs. So that would have been the simple way of doing it. But the problem is, a pirush makubal l'chayra is an interpretation of the pasuk, and there's no what we're trying to say is that this idea of pidyon, it's not mentioned in the pasuk. You could you need, the Ram says in Akdom to Pirush HaMishnah, that you need a remez in the pasuk or something that to say this is the pshat. But kilu a pirush which is not based on anything, you would have said that it's a drasha. The my Rebbe in Igros Agrid Alevi, I think it's in Hilchos Mamrim, has a long discussion of pirush makubal, and also points out there that it's after the pirush makubal it's the pshat and pasuk, or the pirush in Preitz Hodor is esrog. So, l'cheira, maybe you could imagine that the process of elimination is also a raya that's the pasuk is talking about. And it's not a drasha, since you're working with this assumption, which is an amazing assumption, that the Torah is not koifel, says things twice, is ein dvar batola, and it says it again, and this is talking about X, it's chulin, and one is talking about kdשים, so it must be talking about psul mukdashim. That is all fine. But we still don't know, even if we say that the pasuk is talking about psul mukdashim, there's no tzivui. There's nothing in the Sifri to point to. I mean, you want to say the word shi'iftu, it's a very strange shad the Sifri, because the Sifri, the gist of the Sifri is the process of elimination. It can't be this and it can't be that. So the other possibility must be the other possibility. So good. So we know the pasuk is talking about psul mukdashim. But it's true. You can learn a het achila, achrei pidyon u'shchita, rak b'chol avas nafshecha, tizbach ואכלת bosa kebikas Hashem elokecha. It's a heter. But there's a tzivui to be played there. So the b'chol avas nafshe means what? That he has a chukah to eat basa, so he can do such a thing. But that there's a mitzvah opinion. So I'm never getting involved in this. And the mitzvah tak opinion is there's nothing to do with us. It's only if he wants to eat basa, you have to do research on that. But whatever it is, where's the tzivui? Or the Ram Shmini says, or the mitzvah minyan mitzvahs need a tzivui. The question is, where's the tzivui? That is point number one. The question is, it's true. The question is it a chayadoch that the process of elimination over here, that's pshat and posik, and that's the remes? I'll tell you why. Because remember, it has to be able to be pshat and posik. So this posik says, "V'achalt bosa kebirkas Hashem elokecha asher nosan lecho b'chol sherecha." There's epis in ribui psul mukdashim that you can be pointed with is an expression of birkas Hashem elokecha. That's the how it comes out over here. No, if someone would have told me that, it's not, this, if you plug the Rambam Sefer HaMitzvos back into the pasuk, it's telling you that ribui psul mukdashim for shchita is a bracha that you have b'chol avas nafshecha. Which is is not something which I would have said, on my own and say, oh, that's pshat and posuk. You see, again, the process of elimination, I could have imagined that it can make a pirush makubal, a remes a pirush makubal. But if after the process of elimination, the posuk is difficult reading, that is birkas Hashem for ribui psul mukdashim, that's what comes out. That mamish is the pella. So maybe this is going to be a downer, okay? Maybe because of all these questions, all these issues, the kadmoinim, the bahag, who have sadi going, don't count this mitzvah minyan mitzvahs. Whatever it is, sheipdו, and listen to the Lashon Rambam again. Who should see me lift us? Mash nischadish by mum min hakotshim v'yetzei l'chulin. Yetzei l'chulin. V'yeh muta lishchait oisai v'l'achloi. Or to have a hete shchita and achila, that's a mitzvah to have such a hete shchita and achila. that's what he's saying. Because, without that, the words ויהיו מותר לשחוט, עושה מלאכה, that's dinim. Why is he telling us this in the Chayt? Oh, that's a nusach HaMitzvah. Chayst it. Minyan HaMitzvah Kotzer. Liftois, Pochim, בעלי, מומין, ויהיו מותרין באכילה. Minyan HaKotzer. The opinion is for het achila. I don't want to get involved in this, but one should ask, okay, that maybe if a person's played just l'shem pidyon and he just wants to let the behema, just mull around and do nothing, maybe there's no mitzvah. The mitzvah is pidyon l'shem shchita achila. And maybe if he's koide and shoichet it and feeds it to klovim is also not. I'm not the pesumatosh when it's machel. I'm not getting involved. I understand the problem. I'm just telling you that the mitzvah is pidyon l'shem shchita v'achila.
Yotzi with kazayas, or you'd have to eat the whole behema.
I wasn't. How's the chaynet? I don't know. There's no yotze. The achila is no mitzvah in the achila. The mitzvah is the pidyon. It just to be the shem achila. You have to have in mind how much. It's not worse the ritva on the tilas yadayim that you wash and have kavanah to eat the kibetz or whatever. You don't have to eat it. I don't know what the mitzvah is. Pidyon l'shem shchita v'achila. How much you have to mind? I'll leave it to you. But that's what he's saying. I think. Next. But the main problem, no matter how you cut it, is that the Ma'aseh Mitzvah is not mentioned over here, and that Yuchim Perlau talks about in the Sefer HaMitzvos on the upside going. Next, here's a very interesting thing. It says, "Shitzivonu liftois mased neshchadish boimum," or in kapach shenofal. Okay. The impression you get over here is Louis Tzur, there was a mum kora. It's a mum kora. There's no mitzvah. The mitzvah is only if they will makdish it. It was lawful by mum. And because the mitzvah is only k'dush haguf. In Balmum Meikara, it's only k'dush dam. There's no k'dush haguf. And the mitzvah is on k'dush haguf to be paid. That's the case. Okay? So that's what Ram says. Shenofal by mum. But if it was a Balmum Meikara, b'shas the hektish was a Balmum, there's no k'dush haguf. I'm not getting involved in the lava makdish. Well, that's not my interest. But there's no k'dush haguf, and the mitzvah is pidyon for k'dush haguf. Now, when it says mum means a mum kavua, not a mum oiver, because mum oiver is no pidyon. Okay, you can't have a mitzvah's pidyon unless the pidyon's chacham. So you need a mum kavua, and not all mum kavua. There's pidyon, because the zoken choil mizum, which is called the mum kavod, ain't niftan alayim, and that's ram misui mizbeach. It was misui mizbeach per beis alocha vov. Okay, so you need mum kavua, which has pidyon, and that's the mitzvah is to do a pidyon on it. Next, okay. Then the Ram says, "V'yetze l'chulin," and let's v'yetze l'chulin, v'yemuta l'shchait. V'yetze l'chulin, and it's a hetish v'yemuta l'shchait Yisrael l'achle. V'yetze l'chulin. So you just keep in mind, the Ram doesn't mean that it's chulin. Because the behemo is also begiza avodas, and he said the raisa. Like all kochim mizbeach, the Ram says in Luchos Mila, in Perek Aleph Halacha Zayin and Tes, kol kochim mizbeach, ben kochim, ben kochim kalim, asum begiza avodah, shenema leitzavod b'chol sharecho, loisogos b'chol tzeinecho, v'uadin shar kochim, v'chulei, behemis hektish shenofo bomum, v'niftis, kamo shebi'alno, Eino muteres begiza va'avoida. Eino muteres begiza va'avoida. V'arihu bi'isuro ad shetishochет. Until shchita, there still needs to giza avoida. By choice, them getting involved in Moshe Shtickle, that the shchita is chamatir, but that's not of our interest over here. Okay? But it means, v'yetze l'chulin means this quasi-chulin that you could imagine shchita is mafkia in ganzen, and it's mutar b'akhila. This, that shchita is mafkia l'kedusha l'gamrei, that is in Chedusha Gam Alevi, Hilchus Meila, Teva Maschel Das Haram, the Chol Hach, and in Perek Aleph Alocha Yud. And Briskov quotes the Bruder in Chedusha Moran Riz Halevi Al Rambam, Hilchus Bechis, Teva Maschel Zvochem Daftes. So all this is true, okay? But that's not the gate to the mitzvah. Yetze l'chulin, say yetze l'chulin doesn't mean that it's chulin, but it's yetze l'chulin vivait, enough in order there should be a het shchita and it should be necha. Now, Yeye mutter mutter lishchot Yisrael l'achol. It's questionable whether it's kapach or not, but this is all not that much difference. V'omer Yisrael rak b'chol avas nafshech tizbach v'achalta boso k'birkas Hashem Elokecha. Now, next. Now, rak, and that's a Molosh in Sifri, rak b'chol avas nafshecho tizbach, eino medber el psul mekdoshim sheyifto. The posik in Pshuto Shomikro, there's a heter on the psul mekdoshim. There's a het achil derech zvicha, And the Pirush Makubal is we're talking about Psul Mukdashin, but we still know the Pasuk, we know that Tizbach Ve'achalta is Psul Mukdashin, we still don't know the Mitzvah's Pidyon. That's all we have here. This mitzvah, l'chera, doesn't depend on the fact that there's akrova, that the behema was oimed l'akrova and nifsal the mum. It means only that there was tushaguf and it was nifsal through mum. So l'chera, it's a double portion that this mitzvah is noig b'zman hazeh. And anyone who has smicha of yate can paskin on the b'chol that there's a mum, and then you would be sheichet wherever it is, b'chol mokum shehu. All you need is tushaguf and mum kvua and a chocham ameira. I mean, that's not a d'oraisa din that you need enough. You smicha. I'm not getting involved in that. Okay, say that. Maybe need. Okay, good. Say it. Now, ukfa hisboye dine mitzvazo, kloim pinya kdokotchim. This the Rambam in Huchos Yisui Mizbeach Perek Aleph Halacha Yud. Umitzvah say he liftes kotchim shenoilad bohen mum, again the Ram shenoilad bohen mum, v'yetzu l'chulim v'yochu shenema rak b'chol avas nafshech tizbach ואכלת boso v'yeh shmuel למדו shakos medab b'sul medoshim sheyipodu. וכבר ביארנו בערכין שזה שנאמר ואם כל בהמה טמאה אשר לא יקריבו ממנו קורבן השם שהוא מדבר בבעלי מומין שיפדו. So here we can start with something, okay? The Ram says, you see, until this point, the first half of Hilchos Tzul Mukdashim, Perek Aleph Halacha Yud, is very simple. Mitzvah say, who liftos kotchim shenola ben mum, v'yetzu l'chul v'yochlu. Shenema rak b'chol avas nafshech tizbach ואכלת. There's nothing new here. This we have already said for mitzvahs. Okay, correct. Ukvar bialnu be'erchin. Erchin means hilchos erchin. Zeh shenema v'im kol behema tmeya asher yoklinu. Then korban Hashem shehu medber b'bali mumim sheifdu. Okay. So what does the Ram want with that the last line? This pasuk, there are two psukim of here. Listen to this. In goes like this: V'im kol behema tmeya asher akrivu mimeno korban Hashem v'hemid es habehemo lifnei hakohen. V'herech hakohen oiso ben toiv v'ra uben ra ke'ech hakohen ken yiyeh. The Gemara Tamura interprets in Lamed Aleph on the base that these psukim are not a behemoth tmeya mamish, which is not royal korban, but the It's talking about psul mukdashim. Behemoth Tmei Mamish is learned over there in Vayikra. This is Vayikra Chav. The first is Vayikra Chav Aleph Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. But in Vayikra Chav Zayin, Behem Behema Tatmei Ufod the Erkecha V'Yosem Chamish So'olov V'Im Lo Yigoyer V'Nimka Be'Elkecha is referring to Behemoth Tmei Mamish. So it means you learn from this pasuk or to the din pigeon in psul mukdashim. That's what it says. V'hem kol behemoth tmei asher yachriv mimenu korban Hashem v'hemed es habehemoth lifnei hakohen v'herich hakohen oiso bein toiv v'ra v'bein ra ke'er hakohen kein yiyeh. The pasuk in Dvarim, in Perek Yud Beis in the A, doesn't talk about pidyon. So, you can flip it and say maybe we should learn the mitzvah of pidyon, of psul mukdashim, adarabah, from Vayikra. Okay, Chav Zayin, correct? There it talks about opinion of psul mukdashim. The other pasuk talks about opinion, talks about achila. So the answer is that the pasuk that talks about psul mukdashim opinion is not talking about this mitzvah, but it's the source of a different mitzvah in minyan mitzvahs. What do I mean? There's a mitzvah of what is the derech opinion, how you are paid the psul mukdashim. Mitzvah kuf tezayin. Okay, let's just open for a second. Kuf tezayin. Mitzvah say kuf tezayin. Here it is. No, excuse me. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Kuf tezvov. Kuf tezvov. Shenitzavinu bedin elke behemoth tmeya. V'omer Yisrael. Second. Behemoth a behemoth. Behemoth. This becomes a problem. One second. Stay for a second. You see, here, we'll have to work on this, okay? Just see. The Rambam, and see, the problem, just see, reading Sefer Mitzvahs is going to be a problem. Reading the way he has it in the Protei Mitzvahs, Din Elkei Behema, which includes also Din Pesuli Mukdashim, Behema, okay? Elkei Behema, okay? Now, there, that is the Din, and this is a Shrana, you look there, and that the Ram says in Mitzvah Seder Dalet that it's a new type of mitzvah of Shrana, of Kilu Adin. And these are the Ram count each one of these Elkin as separate mitzvahs. So this cannot be the source of the mitzvah. But the only question is, which you have to ask yourself, once you have a mitzvah called the din of Elkin, of Behema, of Pesuli Mukdashim, that the Behema Mukdashim, there's a din of Pidyon, and the question is good. So see, the question is, this should be a separate mitzvah over here, or this should be part of the din. See, the question is, how do you get it's true? The Pesuli Mukdashim requires Pidyon, correct? But that's a din, okay? How do you put, and the Rambam, you see, it's very strange. What does he want over here? Let's read it again. Mitzvah say he liftos kdשים shenoled bohen mum v'yetzu v'chulin v'yochlu shenemar rak b'chol avas nafshcho tizbach ואכלת boso מפי השמועה למדו שהכוס מדבר בפסולי שיפדו וכבר ביארנו בערכן שזה שנאמר ואם בהמה טמאה אשר אלוקים ממנו כל מן השם שהוא מדבר בבעלי מומין שיפדו. Okay, so it is true. There's a din that Bali Mum Shifdu, correct? And there's no way that there can be a mitzvah of tizbach ואכלת without the pidyon. Okay, all the pieces of the puzzle over here, because without this piece, you don't have the pidyon. So here we understand where the pidyon comes from. It comes from another parsha. Okay, but how do you put the two things together? That the Torah happens to have a din, which is a separate mitzvah, opinion, behema, or behema, each one has its own hemveherich, or whatever it is. And some essentially opinion, and the Torah says, tizbach ואכלת, right? So therefore, this means there's a mitzvah of opinion. And therefore, the Ram says, he has a reference to Hilchos Erchin. Good. So he's telling you the opinion. The question is, how does it all fit together to make a mitzvah minyan mitzvahs? Okay. Amid Shema, next we'll see what maybe we'll do pay hay, or we'll go on to pay Zion. So Amid Shema, we'll see. But that l'chayri is the problem here. Okay, Shabbat Tzlocha, should have an easy fast. Amid Shema will pick up next week. Bli neder.